Hey everybody, it's Glenn back in this video with the Walgreens exclusive Marvel Legends Infinite Series Ant-Man. And what with not having Walgreens here in the UK, I have to take this opportunity to thank the graciousness of one of my viewers for sending me this. Now looking closer at the packaging back, and the blurb reads, with his amazing technology, Eric O'Grady shrinks to become the half-inch superhero Ant-Man. Which is true, just not really in relation to this particular action figure. And I say that because Eric O'Grady was subject to his own comic titled The Irredeemable Ant-Man. And while the character was subject to a series of costume changes, I would think for an Eric O'Grady action figure, this costume from this title is the one he is most synonymous with. And while the packaging back describes him as a half-inch superhero, he was, by admission of the comic's title, irredeemable. For instance, using your power as he famously did to spy on Miss Marvel while she showers might make you a hero to some readers, but doesn't make you a hero in the classic sense. But he would eventually become just that when he redeemed himself by being killed to save the lives of some children. Then seemingly returning, but later revealed to be a robot impersonating Eric O'Grady, and the evil Black Ant was born. Which is actually the incarnation we're getting here in plastic, yet with that convoluted backstory, I can see why Hasbro wanted to keep it simple. Yet while the character himself may be unfamiliar to you, the body they're using here probably is more familiar. Yep, it's Pizza Spidey from the Hobgoblin wave, also Spider-Man 2099, Scarlet Spider, and Superior Venom, but I think this marks the first time outside of a Spider-Man character this body has been used. And if this body is to be reused beyond this Ant-Man, I hope they use it for an Iceman. I think it would suit him really well, and Iceman deserves it after that awful all-new X-Men box set one. Now here for a comparison is Toy Biz's Giant Man series Ant-Man from way back in 2006, which is long ago enough and now hard enough to find that I think we're due a classically costumed Ant-Man. I mean, if not in the year of an Ant-Man movie, then when? Further still, we've technically never got a Hank Pym Ant-Man in Legends, as the blurb for the Giant Man series 1 designated him Scott Lang. Yet even if for whatever reason Hasbro were really committed to putting out an Eric O'Grady action figure, then he has also worn a version of the classic costume too, which had they rendered that, we could pretend it was any of the Ant-Men. And not that I'm complaining about an obscure appearance, but I suspect that this one was chosen perhaps because of all the various Ant-Man costumes. It's the most superficially like the movie costume, in that it's predominantly black with red detail. That, and of course the budget. We all know Hasbro like to save a penny, and with this they were able to pull this one off with just investing in the addition of a new belt and head. And I like this head sculpt with the helmet paying tribute to the classic Ant-Man look while giving it a modern twist at the same time, with the antennae appearing much more like insect antennae and less like an aerial of an old-fashioned radio like they did on the classic helmet. And looking at their face sculpt, or that of the face we can see underneath the helmet, and I think the expression they've sculpted betrays the sinister intentions of the character, because I'm pretty sure I'm seeing a sneer across his face, and I like the paint deco with the eyes. The application of the orange and yellow works really well for a sort of energy glow. Now looking at articulation, and his head rotates side to side, it looks down a real good amount. Perhaps we can check he's not stepping on ants. He's got a vested interest not to do so, but then he doesn't look up quite as far. At the shoulder he has one of those butterfly armpit joints which moves his arm so he can reach forwards. Then his arm is able to do a full rotation at the shoulder, and then it moves up to just slightly more than a right angle to the body. There's upper arm rotation followed by a double jointed elbow, and then there's rotation at the wrist, and then his hands are also hinged, moving down and up. His belt there is a separate piece they've added, but with it on there it still is able to utilize the waist rotation, and then there's a ab crunch which moves this far forward and then moves this far back. As has been complained about with this body, at the hips the legs really don't move out very far, but they move a super lot forward, and they move the tiniest bit back. There's upper leg rotation followed by a double jointed knee, and at the ankle it's hinged, moving the foot backwards and forwards, and it has that ankle rocker pivot that I love. Yet with the limited hip articulation he's not able to take full advantage of that ankle pivot, with this being his widest stance possible, still with both feet flat on the floor. It's certainly one of those action figures that looks better in person and comes alive more when posed. However, I do feel this head sits quite high on the neck. So all things considered, it's honestly an appearance I only ever expected to see in custom form. Some might see the relative obscurity as frivolous by Hasbro, but hey, if you're more into the heavy hitters, check out my review of the European Disney Store exclusive Marvel Legends set. Listen to my Articulation Assembled podcast where my good friend Craig and I dissect the New York Comic-Con Marvel Legends reveals and so much more. Links to that in the description beneath this video, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.